Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahmavidvaram. This composition, Nirvana Shatakam, is an aid to our meditation. But meditation doesn't work unless we know what we're meditating on. Meditation comes after the process of gaining knowledge, after the process of clarifying our understanding of that knowledge. Meditation is not to gain knowledge by that practice. Right? And so what's important when we're looking at this Nirvana Shatakam is that even though it's such a beautiful composition to chant and to listen to, a lot of people like to just listen, that we understand what's being said here. Because otherwise its potential to help us in our journey and to help us have this recognition that I am that consciousness, which is bliss, which is Shiva. Without that understanding, that realization cannot help us. Right? We can go on saying, I am bliss, and then we go on crying also because of everything that the world brings to us. So that understanding is what is important. So today we are looking at verse number 4. We'll read the verse and then we'll see. Na punyam, na papam, na saukyam, na dukkham. Na punyam, na papam, na saukyam, na dukkham. Na mantro, na tirtham, na pita, na yajna. Na mantro, na tirtham, na veda, na yajna. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. I have no punya, no papa, no sin or merit. I have no saukyam, no dukkham, means joy or sorrow. Mantra, Tirtha, Veda, Yajna. No mantra is any Vedic mantra that is spoken. Tirtham, pilgrimage, scripture, sacrifice, or ritual. I am not the enjoyer. I am not the enjoyment, thing to be enjoyed, nor the enjoyer. I am consciousness bliss. I am Shiva. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna makes one statement at the beginning of the 3rd chapter. He says, there is no one who can survive for a moment at any time without action. Arjuna has asked this question about knowledge and action. He says, Bhagavan, you're praising knowledge so much and still you're telling me fight, fight, fight. Why are you impelling me into action? Sri Krishna says, I'm not impelling you into action. There is nobody in this world who can survive without action. Action is natural for you. I'm just telling you what you should be doing. Right? But that statement has to be qualified. When we say that nobody can survive for even a moment without action, what Sri Krishna means is, and what he will clarify himself in the chapter, for someone who is identified with the gunas and who is prompted and impelled by the gunas, action is impossible to avoid. So when we talk about the gunas, very often we mean the 3 gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Right? But the gunas also mean that in which those things exist. In other words, the gunas means the entire creation, because there is nowhere in this creation that is free from sattva, rajas, and tamas. Right? The elements and the objects, everything has these 3 gunas. But when we are thinking about action and what impels us into action, it is our identification with this particular set of equipment where the gunas are expressing that pushes us into action. So we are identified with this body where there is an expression of tamas or rajas or sattva. We're identified with our senses and our mind, where all of these things are possible. And essentially, this is the reason that action is not a choice for us. Because we have this notion that I am this body or I am this mind, therefore, we don't have a choice as to whether or not to act. Our choice is what to do, okay? And how to do it. The choice that we have is not whether or not. And what he says is, if I am identified with this body and mind, but still I'm trying to stop myself from acting, that is what we call hypocrisy. Right? That will make someone into a hypocrite. Because what will identification with my body do to me? Just taking a simple example, right? I'm identified with my body. That will very naturally prompt the desire for comfort or pleasure for this body. Right? Because if it's me, then I want what is enjoyable or good for it. So now I'm thinking, oh, I would really like, I don't know, another half an hour in bed, or I would really like something nice to eat or something. So the desire is there in my mind, but I'm thinking, no, I can't have it. I can't have it. And I'm trying to show that I have no desire in my mind. That is hypocrisy. That I have a thought, but I'm projecting something else to the people around me. I'm projecting a different impression. So the desire or the thought is pushed by our identification. Therefore, the key thing is, how am I thinking of myself? If I'm thinking of myself as a body or a mind, then for me, there is no choice as to whether or not to act. This is first. Second, if I do perform an action, there is absolutely no question that that result of that action will come back to me. There is this very solid connection. We may not be able to see it, but there is this connection between action and result. And practically what that means is, everything I do, the result of that action will come back to me. I may not know when, I may not know how, I may not know in what form it comes, but it will come back. There's one monk who used to take meditation classes in a jail, in a prison. And his classes were extremely popular because they were actually helping with the sort of rate of return. Those people who went to his classes, etc. Often they would find that actually these people are not reoffending and coming back. So once he finished his meditation class for the day, and one of the prisoners asked to speak with him. And so this prisoner came up to him and he said, I just want to tell you that I am innocent of the crime for which I have been sent to prison. And he's looking into this monk's eyes and telling him, I really wouldn't lie to you. I have not done the thing which they have convicted me for. I am innocent of that crime. So this monk is looking at him and really he feels that he hasn't. I can see in his face that he's telling the truth. So immediately he starts thinking, this is a huge injustice. What can I do to help his case and make sure that he's freed? And all these thoughts start rushing around in this monk's head. And then this prisoner looks at him and he says, that doesn't mean that all the other crimes which I committed and didn't get caught for have not brought me here. He himself told him, right? This is how karma works. That we may think, I have not done anything to deserve this experience. Why am I going through this? And very often when we look at whether or not we deserve something, we look at just the immediate past, right? What have I done just now that has resulted in this experience that has happened? But our vision doesn't extend to what action have I done, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or what action have I done in my past lives? Because that's the way that karma works. It doesn't matter if I'm experiencing a result now. That doesn't mean necessarily that the action was performed just now. Okay? Whenever it was performed, that result will come back to me. So this is the second thing. We are impelled into action. The results of our action always come. They always find their way back to the doer. We identify as the doer, we will necessarily have to experience the result. The third thing is, we always have a choice in the actions that we perform. Okay? And sometimes actually when you start to think of the choices that you have, it can become very overwhelming. most of the time we're not exercising our capacity for choice because we're used to, certain habits or behaviors that we're just comfortable with repeating again and again. Imagine if every day you had infinite variety of choice in what clothes to wear every morning. Thankfully, we don't. Thankfully, we've narrowed down our choice to a particular set that we're comfortable with. So imagine if you had infinite variety of choice of what breakfast to eat. Thankfully, we do. Or what to do with your day, right? So we have choice in action. And for most of us, that choice has been narrowed down either by circumstance or by our own, out of our own free will. We've decided that actually I don't need so much. I can just do with, this much variety. But we all have choice to whatever extent that applies to each of us. Now, if we look at the amount of or the variety of action that is available to us, not the variety of objects that are available for us to experience, but the varieties of action that are available for us to perform. Again, there is a huge variety, a huge choice for us to make. Because at every moment, the possibilities are almost unlimited, right? What I will say next, or what I will think next, or where I will look, or where I will go, all of those things. Again, because we're so used to just acting a particular way and continuing on the tracks that we've set, we don't feel often that we have a choice, but actually we have an infinite variety of options in front of us. But what our scriptures are really good at doing is taking this infinite variety and just simplifying it hugely for us. So for example, we say there are an infinite variety of objects in this universe, okay? Who knows how many objects exist in this world? The Vedas say actually there are only 5 objects. What are the 5 objects? Those which pertain to our senses, okay? We have sound, smell, touch, sight, taste, and smell. Those are objects. Now suddenly everything is included, right? Similarly, there are so many ways to classify action. But again, we are helped with this because we can classify them by their nature, we can classify them by their effect. We can even just divide them into 2 and say there are worldly actions and spiritual actions. Okay? So we have help in that sense. And the main way of classifying karma, according to our scriptures, is according to whether it is enjoined or prescribed to us or not. In other words, is it something I should be doing, or is it something I should not be doing? This is generally how karma is classified. Okay? Now again, these rules of should and should not, some things are common. Okay? Some things are common for all of us to follow. There is what we call samanya dharma, right? That dharma which everybody should follow. But in terms of our individual actions, there is so much scope for variety. Because it really depends on who you are and where you are in life, right? According to that, your roles and your duties will change hugely. So, for example, a grandparent's role is very different to a parent's role. For young children, parents' role is to instill discipline and to help that child understand what is right and wrong, and to learn about the world, all those things. Grandparents' role is exclusively to spoil that grandchild. They don't have anything else to do. Now, as a parent, if I say my role is to spoil my child, then I've gone outside of what I should do. Not that grandparents' role is to spoil their children, but you can see, right, how it varies. So the main thing is, for where I am here and now, is this included within my duty? Then for me to do it is dharma. Sorry. If it's included in my duty, for me to not do it is adharma. Here and now, is this action not included in my duty? Then for me to not do it is dharma. It's not included in my duty. For me to do it is adharma. Okay? Basically, to do what we should do and not do what we should not do, that is to perform. To do what we shouldn't and to not do what we should, that is adharma. But it's not just the action, it's also the intention with which that action is performed. Right? The action by itself counts for something, but the intention also holds weight. So, for example, we give the case of the surgeon, right, who wields a blade in their hand and who makes incisions in a person's body. Very different intention to someone who is holding a knife, seeking to harm. Their roles are different, and therefore that action is classified differently based on not only their role, but also their intention. Once there was one king who wanted to lose weight. He had been just overeating and not exercising. He had gained a lot of weight. And he became very annoyed and impatient with his whole situation. And so he really wanted someone to help him. But anytime he asked for advice, all his ministers would tell him is, listen, you just need to eat less. He got so annoyed. Why are you telling me to eat less? And so he put out an announcement that anyone who can help me will be rewarded greatly. So of course, when the king puts an announcement and says there's a reward, everybody gets very excited. So lots of people came, but really they were just saying the same thing. Eat less, do more exercise, be a bit healthy. One person came, he said, I'm an astrologer. The king said, okay, so then how are you going to help me? He said, I've looked at your charts, and in a month, you are going to die. And this king got so angry. He said, why are you coming here and telling me I'm going to die? I've asked for your help in losing weight. And he got so angry, he said, put him in jail. So the king says, if we have to do it, put him in jail. And now this king is desperately every day trying to find, now what is the cause of my death? How can I avoid making sure that I don't have any accidents? I shouldn't go anywhere. I shouldn't do anything risky. He's desperately trying to find out what's going to happen. And 1 month passes. And the king is now really scared because he thinks any day now something is going to happen. Finally, he thinks, I just need to speak to this astrologer. He goes to the jail. He says, listen, I know I threw you in jail, but you just need to tell me now what's going to happen. That astrologer said, I've solved your problem for you. The king said, what solved my problem? You're telling me I'm going to die. I'm almost collapsing from stress. He said, listen, just ask him to bring a mirror. The God brought him. Look at me. What did he see? He lost all his weight. Become very thin and slim. Didn't I solve your problem for you? He was too worried to eat. He got what he wanted. So the intention is what matters, right? It's the point of this story. He wanted to solve his problem. So that also applies for everything that we do. Now, in terms of action, so one is we're impelled into action. The result must come back to us. We have a choice in action, okay? And that choice is framed in terms of dharma and adharma when we look at this question from a scriptural lens. Now, in terms of the result itself, when that result is coming back to us, every action has two types of result. One result is immediately observed. It's seen. But the other result is unseen. We don't see it. We don't see a tangible outcome. And that's the part that comes back to us later. Okay. So the visible result is the experience that we get from that person that we've interacted with or object or situation, whatever. But the unseen result is now what we call as either punya or papa. In other words, if I perform dharma, I will get some immediate result. One is I will get peace of mind for sure. Okay? That result is immediate. Now I know that I've done the right thing. There is a reassurance in the mind. There may also be some other tangible result that comes from performing one's dharma. But the unseen result that will come back to me later of dharma is called punya or merit. The unseen result of adharma, right, of me doing something wrong or not doing something right, which I'm supposed to do, that is called papa. And unseen because we don't experience it immediately and we don't know when it comes back to us that, oh yeah, this is because of this action that I performed, however many days or years or months ago. So this unseen result is called either punya or papa, depending on the action that we have performed. Okay. And that can come after a long time. The seen result can also come after a long time, but it's observed. Okay? It's tangible in this world. When we're talking about punya and papa, how exactly do we understand these things? Because the point of this verse is na punyam na papa. Right? I have no association with either of those things. But what is it that I have no association? So punya is the result of dharma. And punya is defined as that which purifies. Sunati iti punya. That which purifies me is called punya. And papa is that which protects my ignorance. Ajnanam pati rakshati iti papa. So that which purifies, that is relatively straightforward. Right? Because when we do our dharma, when we make dharma a priority, what are we putting aside? We're putting aside our personal preferences, likes and dislikes, desires. And we're saying, I will focus on my dharma. right? We're putting dharma front and center. And therefore, that action has the capacity to purify us, right? Because it's helping us to drop our likes and dislikes. But papa, how does it protect our ignorance? If you think, for somebody who knows what their dharma is, right? Forget somebody who has no idea. For a lot of us, some of the time that's the main issue, is that I actually don't know what is my dharma in any given situation. And therefore, I don't know whether what I'm doing is either dharma or adharma. But for somebody who knows, what is it, knowing my dharma, that will make me not perform that action? Or knowing what I shouldn't do, what is it that will make me still perform that action? Ultimately, it will be some desire. It will be some desire that is functioning in my mind, that is pushing me to do something I know I shouldn't, or that is pushing me to not do something I know I should. A very simple example. I know that I should clear the kitchen sink before I go to bed. I don't really want to leave those dishes sitting there because, even just for hygiene purposes. Now, what will make me go to bed even if there are dishes in the sink? I'm tired, I want to sleep. Okay? I don't want to do that chore right now. Some desire. Okay? I know I should, but very often, most of the time, what comes after that but is some desire. I know I shouldn't, but some desire. And the root cause of desire is ignorance. And therefore, we say that papa is that which protects our ignorance. Because if we keep acting according to our likes and dislikes at every turn, we are not giving any opportunity for that ignorance to be removed. We are keeping it very nicely, closely guarded and protected. Right? And therefore, papa is that which protects our ignorance. Now you might think, why does this matter, right? Why is this whole discussion about dharma, adharma, punya, papa, etc.? Why does it matter? Because the modification of punya that we experience in our life, the outcome of punya, the tangible experience of punya is joy. And the tangible experience of papa in our life is sorrow. That's why it matters. Because 99% of our life is spent thinking about how can I be happy? How can I avoid sorrow? And if we understand that the cause of my joy and sorrow at a transactional level is not a person or an object or a place or a situation, the cause of my joy is actually the action that I've performed. If I've done dharma, guaranteed I will experience joy. I don't know how it will come to me, but it will come. And if I've done adharma, guaranteed I will experience sorrow and pain. That's something. I don't know how, but that's what will come. And the fact that we are born as human beings means we have a mixture. That's what defines human life. Human life is a mixture of punya and papa. If we didn't have both, we wouldn't be here. If we had more punya, we would be sitting somewhere enjoying food, dance, music, whatever it is. And if we had overwhelmingly papa, we'd be being fried somewhere and made out to dry like pakora, and then fried again, being dipped in hot oil. That experience would come to us. the fact that we have human birth means we have to. And that means that I'm the architect of my own experiences. Right? This is the strength that this understanding of scripture and spirituality gives to us, is I'm no longer a victim of circumstance. If I understand the law of karma, I am the architect of my own experience and my own destiny. If you think, but I don't know what karmas I've done in the past, and that's binding me now in the future, because that's what's determining what I experience. But still, at every moment in the present, we have self-effort. Self-effort is always in our hands. Because you think about what is the alternative, right? If it's not me that's determining my experiences, either it's all random, in which case, then what's the point? I should just enjoy it. Or there is some all-knowing, all-powerful being who's looking at us all and thinking, she looks like she should have a bad day today, let me send her some. Or this person looks nice, let me send them some joy. Which is untenable. So, yes, our experiences are determined by our karma, but we have self-effort in our hands. So one very poor man who was blessed with a son very late in life. And suddenly after he had that son, somehow his fortunes turned around and he became quite prosperous. But his wife soon died. And now he's very worried about his son because they didn't have any other relatives around, etc. So he went to the wise person in the village. He said, listen, I'm very worried about him. What will happen to him? That man said to him, your son will live a very comfortable life as long as you are alive. And once you die, he will be left with just one cow. That man thought, that's better than nothing. At the same time, he was thinking maybe he's wrong. So he tried to save a lot. He tried to make sure that his son would be left with a lot. And sure enough, after a few years, he died. And they had left him with various, the house and other things. But somehow or another, all those things got destroyed. There was a fire, something happened, something got lost, he had to give something. All he was left with was one milking cow. Now this boy had been brought up in such a way that he had great faith. So he was left with this one cow, and a few days after his father's death, he made an announcement to the village. I'm going to have a yajna, sacrifice, and I'm going to give away this one cow. Because when you do any sacrifice, you have to give in dakshina, etc. Everybody looked at him and said, you only have one cow. You're going to give away this cow. How are you going to do it? He said, no, I'm going to do it. He held this yajna, he gave the cow away. And at the end of the yajna, he said, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to have another yajna and I'm going to give away one cow. Everybody looked at him. You just given away your cow. How are you going to give away another? But he said, no, I will. So everybody went home. And a couple of days later, there was someone, very rich merchant, passing by his house. Somehow got injured, and this boy brought him. He said, I'll take care of him. Nursed him back to health. That merchant was leaving. He said, I'm leaving, but I'm going to give you one cow. He left one cow with his boy. So then he had his yajna again. He gave away this cow. And again he said, I'm going to give away, again when I do the next yajna, one milking cow. And somehow, every time something would happen, he would be able to give away one cow. he became very famous. The king heard about him. The king said, please come and marry my daughter. Happy ending. But the point being that whatever we have, right, we always have a choice as to what we're going to do with that. As Gurudev says, that our choices in how we meet what comes to us. That's where our self-worth applies. Now, if I understand that dharma will give me punya and that will lead me to the experience of joy, then my effort will be to do all dharmic things. Not because I want to attain great wealth or fame in this world, but because I want really to experience joy. And so he gives some examples of what are those kinds of actions, dharmic actions, mantra, tirtham, veda, yajna. Okay? I would take up some sadhana practice of chanting a mantra. That in itself will purify and concentrate and focus something. Or visiting some pilgrimage place. That will be a great means of purification. Nowadays, when people go on pilgrimage, they fly somewhere, then from that place they go to a 5-star hotel, and then from that place they take a helicopter, and they arrive at the mandir, and they do darshan, and then they go. That's the theme. The point of tirtha is you go through some difficulty, so that when you get to that mandir and you have that darshan of Bhagavan, by the time you reach there, your only thought is, I will see the Lord. Right? That's why all that walking and that hardship, and you stay in that dharamshala, which has only one mattress on the floor and some plain dal for you to eat, and there's hot heat and cold, and there are other people that you have to put up with while you're traveling. The point of that is, through all of those experiences, the mind becomes pointed on, what am I going to see? Right? Why am I doing all of this? Why am I sleeping on the floor? And why am I walking? And why am I bathing in cold water? Because at the end, I will have darshan of Bhagavan. So tirtha is for any yatra, is for that purpose, for the mind to become purified. Same way with the study of or recitation of the Vedas and the performance of any yajna. The point is that those things are there to help purify the mind. Right? They are sadhanas, they are practices, which the sattvic mind will tend towards. How do you know what kind of mind you have? When you have free time, where do your thoughts go? When you have free time, how do you fill that free time? That will give you an indication of where your mind is. Are you filling it with Netflix? Are you filling it with calling someone up and talking to them? Are you filling it with sitting down and reading something? How are you filling your free time? So for the sadhaka, for the seeker, any free time, great. I have more time for my sadhana or practices or seva or whatever it is. And this will be how they choose to spend their time. So this is the actions that will be tended towards by a sattvic. But even these actions, if I'm doing them with a sense of doership, then I have no choice but to accept the identity of experiencer. Okay? If I think of myself as the doer of action, I will become the experiencer of the result of that action. You accept something into your possession, then you accept all the consequences of that. Okay. Somebody comes in and says, whose car is there? I don't know, blue one with XYZ license plate. Now, if it's not your car, then you say, not. Okay. But if it is your car, now suddenly you're thinking, oh no, what's happened to my car? Or I blocked someone and now I have to go and move my car. Okay? So you accept the ownership, you have to accept everything that comes after that. So being the doer, I will become the bhokta. I will become the experience. Who has some experience, Mahojaram, who is coming into contact with the coach, with the experience. Now, the main thing for us to see here is all of these things are being negated. Right? I have no punya papa, I have no joy and sorrow, I have none of these sadhanas, they're not relevant to me. I am not the experiencer or the experience or the experienced. None of these are. Why? Because Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. If I'm not identified with the body and the mind, then do I have any association with karma? Where does karma take place? Body, senses, mind, intellect. If I'm not the body, and I'm not the mind, I'm not the senses, I have no association with action. How can I have any association with the result of action? None of us have done any exams, right now. Have you done any GCSE A-level exams? Will you go on results day to some school and say, where are my results? No, because you've not written any exams. If I'm not the doer, I will not be the experience. And the self has nothing to do with action. The self is simply existing. Everything gets enlivened by it, but is not participating in any action. If my understanding is I am that self, which has nothing to do with action, then neither the action nor the result can have any association. It has nothing to do with that. So there is no, in the Upanishads also, the statement of the realized master is that there is no worry about, oh, why did I do that wrong thing? Or why didn't I do this right thing? Because there is no worry about action. That doesn't mean that that person becomes inert and doesn't do it. Okay? Then because of so much sadhana, etc., the natural tendency will always be to do dharma. But there is no association with that equipment with which action is being carried out. There was once a wise man, realized that, who came to one village. He was walking around. And this village was in a different part of the country, in which he had never lived. He didn't know the language. So he came there, and everybody would try to talk to him. And the only thing he knew how to say was, no problem. So at first, all these villagers were a bit wary, that who is this man who's come and who's something very unfamiliar. They came to him and they would ask him, who are you, where have you come from, etc. No problem. And after some time they observed him and they started thinking, wow, he's such a great soul. He's living without any possessions and he's just come here, not asking anything from us. And so they would bring lots of offerings. They would bring food and milk and all sorts of things, a bed and clothes. And every time they came and they would offer to him, he would say, no problem. Now, in that village, there was this one family. And in that family, they had a daughter who had fallen in love with the mortal enemy of this father's son. His father had made himself this mortal enemy. just because of some discipline. And she became pregnant. Now she was so scared that now what are they going to say and do? And soon enough, she couldn't hide her pregnancy anymore. The parents got very upset and started asking her, whose is this child? And she knew that if she tells them that it's, this one's son, then they are done for, and she will never be able to get married to him or anything. She gets so scared, and out of fear, she blurts out, it's that sadhu's child. That one who they've all been giving so much respect and love, etc. Suddenly they get so angry, and they all rush to him, and they start shouting at him. This is no problem. This girl's parents go to him and say, listen, this is your child, you take care of her. She is going to live here with you. You have to provide for her. You have to make sure she's comfortable. You have to make sure the baby's taken care of. Everything is your responsibility. Yes, no problem. So that girl is now staying there with him. The baby is born. He's taking care of both of them. And this girl is seeing that this man is suffering so much because of something I said out of fear. He's never rejected me. He has never got angry at me. He's never spoken harshly to me. He is just taking care of me. And that guilt is just growing within her, eating away at her. So she one day goes to her parents. Says, listen, I'm so sorry, but actually the father is so and so. And it's not this sadhu at all. And I would like to also get married to him, etc. Not to the sadhu, but and the parents now feeling so remorseful that how we treated the sadhu, he didn't react at all. So again, they come rushing back to him and they fall at his feet and say, we're so sorry, how could we have treated you like this? And they bring gifts and they bring all sorts of things. And he looks at them and he says, no problem. That is the mark of the wise man. That if I'm not the experiencer, whatever comes to me, how can it be a problem? Our mind is looking for problems, even if there aren't any, in everything that comes, every experience and every person and every conversation. That doesn't mean you have to start doing this, no problem. But this is the point that attitude towards experiences changes completely based on the understanding, right? The basis, the foundation is the knowledge. And based on that, my attitude changes. Now, if I'm of the nature of bliss, do I have any reason to seek joy through dharma that will give me punya? I am that bliss which is being sought. So now what reason do I have to be impelled into action and to do dharma and to try and gain joy? As the self, I am ever pure. Now, do I have any need for sadhana, for mantra and kirtan and veda and yajna? As the self, which is free of impurity, which is auspiciousness itself, which is Shiva, there is no need for sadhana. We do sadhana because we are identified with the mind. And in that mind, there are so many negativities and impurities. And therefore we feel, no, I must do something about this. But knowing that I'm not that mind means that I am ever pure. Until we get to that point, sadhana is relevant for all of us. until we get to that point where the thought can arise in my mind. And at the moment I'm experiencing it, I know it's not me. Until we get to that point, we need sadhana. But if we get to that point where thought arises, intense thought of desire or anger or whatever it is, and at the moment that it's experienced, I know very clearly, this is not me, this is not mine, this has nothing to do with it. Then that knowledge is fair. Right? That is our aim, to be able to, in the midst of experience, know this is not me, this is not mine. I'm not the doer, and therefore I'm not the experiencer. I'm not the bhokta. I have nothing to be experienced. There is no experience. I'm of the nature of knowledge. I'm of the nature of bliss. That is the conclusion that one comes to on the basis of all this matter. Om Purnamada Purnamida Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Harihi Om.